Okay, and starting where we left off in Volume 4, Chapter 2, Part 2 of No Game, No Life. A blinding white beach, a sea that reflected the sky like a mirror. Through a sky so blue, it looked like nothing so much as a primary color ink spill. The rays of sun spilled down, and the distant clouds flowed. In a place where the only noise was that of the rippling waves and the roar of the sea. Sprays of mist soared through the air. It was here, at a party, frolicking in the shallow water, wetting her legs, that Shiro served a fabric beach ball. Steph, pass. I just have to bounce it, yes? Here, pass, Mrs. Zuna. Steph deftly set the pass from Shiro high in the air towards Izuna. However, Izuna simply caught the ball as it flew towards her. Whoomp. I don't get the damn rules, please, she muttered in bewilderment, her head tilted. Unlike Steph, who'd gotten the idea, it seemed Izuna didn't grasp the point. It's not really a game, is the thing. Well, okay, let's say this. You can't grab the ball. You have to pass the ball to the next person, only touching it once. And if you can't, then you lose, right? Understood, please. Watching Izuna's nod with a warm and fuzzy look, Steph rambled, blissfully ignorant. How nice. It's wonderful to play a game like this, where we can just relax once in a while, isn't it? Yes, blissfully ignorant of the fact that Sora and Shiro's eyes, as well as Izuna's, had sharpened to the keenness of blades. As soon as rules had been set out and explicated, what we had here was a game, pure and simple, which meant, I'll kick your ass, the three other than the Maud and Steph thus bared their fighting spirits entirely openly. Okay, then I'll go first. With these words, Shiro, having been given the ball, quietly exchanged glances with Sora. Shiro took the ball and casually dipped it in the water. Here, Steph, pass. So the fabric beach ball, with only its bottom wet, was tossed to Steph without spin. And to be clear, in the precise moment there was no wind. Yes, passing it on. Silent diplomacy streaked through the air, but Steph set for the return without recognizing this. The ball that Shiro had set rigged. If Steph set it without moving, took a slightly off course. As a result, the ball passed by Steph to Izuna, had spin. But weighed down by the water, absorbed just at its bottom, the ball's course swayed irregularly. Izuna, however, read this instantly. Launching off the ground in a spray of water, she caught up with the ball and received it. Only received it. By the measure of Izuna's arms, it was a light return. But through Izuna's little body, the ball had acquired the overwhelming force of Werebeast. That was enough to send it hurtling at Sora with terrifying speed. But Sora, seemingly unfazed by this, thought to himself, well, hope you don't think it's going to be that easy. In the trajectory of the ball that had been only received by Izuna, but was nonetheless flying at him as if spiked by a pro volleyball player, Sora intentionally fell dramatically into the water, raising an aqueous pillar. The projectile penetrated the pillar, but by this time it reached the collapsed Sora. Its speed was negligible. From this unreasonable position, Sora somehow sent the ball with his feet and sent it over to Shiro. Now thoroughly soaked, the ball had gotten quite heavy. Steph, go for it. Shiro just barely managed to set up the wet and abruptly heavier ball for Steph. Yes, with incomparable precision to a point, Steph could just barely reach to a position from which, even if she'd given the angles of entry and escape, Steph, I'm sorry, Miss Easy, managing to keep it in play, inevitably sent it careening a considerable distance from Izuna. She couldn't get it. With the ball flying off in some totally wrong direction, there was no way she could reach it. At Sora and Shiro, subtly raising the corner of their mouths as if to say, And that's the game. Izuna ground her teeth. Don't screw with me, please. She launched off the ground. She landed impact. The water that had been at her feet now explosively scattered to reveal the sand beneath at the shock of her step. But flying as if to outstrip it, as if gliding over the ocean, Izuna caught up to the ball, and, still at that speed, swung her arms. The shock wave of her swing was enough to raise a wave, but pow! Water sprayed as a fine mist from within the ball, which exploded in Izuna's hands. Sora raised his voice. GG, you lose. That's not fair, please. You bastards, please. If you don't pass it to the next person, you lose, Izzy. Using all your strength was your downfall. Shiro answered, exchanging a light high five with Sora. That's right. If Izuna, a werebeast, hit the ball heavy with water with all her might, at that moment the ball, unable to bear the shock, would rupture, and she'd be unable to pass it on to the next person. Once she'd realized that had been Sora and Shiro's aim all along, Izuna still argued. But what if the ball hadn't ruptured then? You people don't even have the concept of playing just for fun? Steph muttered, dust by the wave produced by Izuna's step and subsequent swing. Huh, not for games, nope. Lil, what? Isn't that the damn point of games, to kick ass, please? At the three immediate answers, each incredibly immature in its own way, Steph gave herself over to the wave. Meanwhile, the Shrine Maiden, who has been watching from a distance, spoke up in wonder. Well, you beat Izuna at sports. 'Tis feat, aye. Your disregard for the spirit of the rules is as remarkable as ever, but even so, I must. Her words broke off at the instant sensation of someone behind her. The Shrine Maiden promptly moved her hands to her chest, but however unhinged Werebeast's reaction times may have been, the blink of an eye wasn't fast enough. Having suddenly had her swimsuit pilfered, the Shrine Maiden did the best she could to hide her breast as she directed a sharp glare at the culprit. Goodness, just what are you after, my dear pigeon? Jabril received the look while playing with the swimsuit she had stripped from the Shrine Maiden. According to my master's lecture, in a situation such as this, a nip-slip is the law of fate. Oh, I see. In which case, we shall, of course, expect you to fulfill this fate, huh? Still hiding her chest, the Shrine Maiden slowly lowered her center of gravity, as the Shrine Maidens unmistakably assumed a fighting posture. Jabril only laughed at her merrily. Indeed, to this I object not. However, if you suppose that a little dog with no power but to crawl on the earth is capable of taking anything from me, I must suggest that you reconsider your position. You talk, don't you? But you've got it wrong. I've got more powers than crawling on the earth. Still smiling, but with sparks of hostility flying so fiercely it seemed you could see them. Oh, Shiro, don't you know how to swim? Huh, Steph? You can? Steph balked at this new revelation about Shiro, who had seemed capable of anything, but with Shiro gawking at someone who could swim. Holy shit, please. No less should be expected of Miss Stephanie, from administration to cuisine to needlecraft, and then to think you can swim. But if I may ask, innocently, for what reason is it necessary for animals that live on land to be able to swim in water? Gramps just made the point of the century. Land animals should live on land. The whole crew, apparently bereft of anyone who could swim, spoke as one. Steph, with a wry smile, took Shiro's hands. You're all hopeless. It's more fun if you can swim. Here, I shall teach you. Come now, I have your hands. Let's try kicking to start. Drawing Shiro by her hands, Steph soothed the unenthusiastic girl and tried to teach her the basics. But, whoa! Ah! Suddenly a massive wave arose and carried them all straight to shore. Brother! Shiro! Shiro swept ashore by the wave. Sora ran in panic and lifted her up. Hugging her panting brother, Shiro muttered, Brother, I'm gonna learn to swim. But faced with Shiro, as if the sea water had gotten to her, mumbling this determination with tears in her eyes, Sora confronted those responsible for the massive wave, raising his voice. Hey there, maybe you should consider moderating. I mean, at least obeying the laws of physics if you don't mind. The voice he'd raised, though, trailed off at the sight before his eyes, that sight being, crisscrossing the distant horizons of the sea, two monsters. Though your words be grand, this is all we could ever expect, isn't it? Isn't it? Jabril taunted this as she cut across the water. Just below her, the body of the Shrine Maiden, leaping from the ocean floor, turned scarlet as she stretched out her hand. The hand of the Shrine Maiden, who'd gone as far as to use her blood break, was nevertheless dodged by Jabril by the slimmest of margins. But the Shrine Maiden went on bounding and dashing over the surface of the water, using her hands as a bra. The Shrine Maiden, apparently having lost not only her swimsuit top, but now even her haten, had become so overwhelmed with something akin to a murderous rage that she'd lost the will to hide and was pursuing Jabril to get her swimsuit back. If I were you, I'd say I'd prepare for the worst. I'll strip you to your bum in front of everyone. The Shrine Maiden, the agent plenipotentiary of Werebeast, the strongest among Werebeast, was she, running atop the water, on the water, and sometimes, albeit just for a moment, even on the air. The Shrine Maiden, dunking herself again and again in the sea, bathing the water in the wind, changing in appearance each time from scarlet to gold. That's our holy Shrine Maiden. Holy shit, please. But the one thing that was certain, as even Azuna watched in disbelief, was that no one could intervene. Sora decided to write it off as a natural calamity and looked away. What a fine sight. At these words, Sora turned to see Ino. As he followed the old man's gaze to find not only those who had been swept to shore, Steph and Azuna, but also sopping wet from the wave that had clearly soaked the entire beach. The Shrine Maiden's servant girls, huddled together as if their swimsuits were suddenly transparent, they presented a vision that transcended words. All right then. It's still unforgivable to nearly drown Shiro, but this is marvelous, Sora commentated, returning to the beach with Shiro still in his arms. Yes, a feast for the eyes, is it not, Your Majesty? Yeah, if we just didn't have you here, it would be perfect. This Sora muttered to the muscular old man who wore nothing but a loincloth, doing his level best to keep the geezer out of his line of sight. Watching everyone frolicking, caressed by the waves, Steph smiled warmly. Hee, we've been working so hard for so long. The brilliant rays of sunshine, the white sand returning to the tide. She lightly kicked at the water, splish splash, the waves lapping at her feet, the wind blowing from the ocean, as if chasing her daily toils. Everyone needs a break now and then, don't they? Steph whispered with a deep sense of relief at the pleasant scent of the salty air. She'd wondered to herself when had been the last time that she'd taken it easy like this. It must have been before Sora and Shiro came. No, before her grandfather passed away. Feeling that she had not released her tension for many years, she took a deep breath. I'm so glad we came, Steph declared, seeking assent from no one in particular. Beep, 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 beep. That's a wrap. Good work, everyone. As Sora thus called with half-open eyes, shuffle, shuffle, they came like zombies, trudging back from the sea. My hair, it's all stiff, full of sands. I do apologize, Master, but I cannot simply bring myself to find an affinity for the sea. The salt breeze gets in my wings, and I know not what to say to this discomfort. My tail sucks up the water and gets all heavy, please. It's a pain in the ass, please. Enough is quite enough, if you ask me. Who came up with this baffling ceremony of bathing in the sea? A holy shrine maiden, I apologize. I should not have allowed you to become involved in this farce of King Sora's. Despite the troop's sudden transformation, not unlike actors just having finished a performance, there was one member. Huh? What? Unable to follow, Steph watched dazedly, stood alone in the sea. What are you doing, Steph? We got the footage. It's fine. You can come out now. Sora said this while disabling his phone and tablet, which were mounted on beachside trees. Huh? What? What do you mean? Huh? Do you mean you were actually enjoying it for real? Having moved into the shade to the towels themselves off, everyone looked confused. Huh? Sorry. Let's see now, Steph. The truth is... Sora, apparently certain she had been aware the whole time, spoke as if reluctant to say it. No one here actually likes the beach. Okay. That's a mood. A large, deep collective nod from the group. A shrine maiden who seemed the most uncomfortable of all of them spoke as she groomed her golden fur. I gave this trope Mr. Sora spoke of a whirl, but it's still a mystery to me. With all this sand in my tail, how do you reckon I shall get this out? Lord Shiro, it's time. Jabril, her eyes flashing, handed something to Shiro. Props, was the response indicated by Shiro's thumb, her eyes gleaming the same. Shrine maiden, you should try this brush and shampoo. Oh, is that so? Well, let's give it a try then. Fluffy, hee hee. Shiro, having deftly gained an excuse to fulfill her desires, smiled darkly as she buried her face in the shrine maiden's golden tail, and before you knew it, Sora was at it too, with the same contents in his hands. Yay! Woo! Now I gotta do Azuna's! But Ino towered in the young man's path. Looks were exchanged in an instant, two men face to face. I shall tend to Azuna. Here, Azuna, this way. Gramps, why don't you take care of your own damn tail? To be groomed by you, sir, would defile Azuna. Why do you not do something about that meager body of your own? But paying no attention to these two, Azuna toddled straight in front of Inu and plopped down. Get this shit done, please. Old fart, that thinking you're doing with your face makes me want to kill you without saying anything. Is that some kind of special werebeast power? In response to Ino's expression, which seemed moments away from audibly echoing with a second, an ow owned event bulged on Sora's forehead. A wave splashed over Steph's legs. It seemed the time when anyone had been aware of her had come and gone. The sun was creeping below the horizon. Hee hee, it's so beautiful, hee hee. Sitting with her arms around her knees on the beach, Steph, having apparently fled into her own little world, was smiling. Then suddenly Sora spoke. I'm bored. At this one phrase, the gazes of all collected on Sora. Only bastards quit while they're ahead, please. Izuna expressed her discontentment at Sora's words. Sora, who had been whiling away all this time until sunset with Izuna and his DSP, shogi, tic-tac-toe, and other distractions that made one question why they'd bother to come to the beach in the first place. No, I didn't mean I'm bored of playing games with you. Rising, Sora addressed the nearby crate. Hey, Plum, where's your welcome boat? Ah! Voices rose at the reminder of their original purpose, which almost everyone had forgotten, and Plum meekly poked her face out of the crate. Plum, who must have been working her magic the whole time, judging from her face, which was so exhausted as to hearken back to their first meeting, answered. I told you, it's coming, around, when the date changes, didn't I? But I mean, my DSP and tablet are practically out of batteries. I'm pretty much done here. That's why I told you we didn't need to come so early. Plum whined, her exhaustion clouded with dissatisfaction. No, I'm bored. I want to go now. Otherwise, I'm going home, Sora said like a spoiled child. How can you be so childish? Sora ignored the petulant Plum and exchanged glances with the Shrine Maiden and Shiro. The Shrine Maiden, who since going out of the water had been thoroughly fluffed up in the shade by Shiro, and Shiro, who had been doing the fluffing. Both nodded subtly and muttered together. Right you are, lad. I must say this is getting tiresome. I'm tired, too. What? You too? How can you be so... Ignoring Plum, who seemed consumed by sorrow, Sora opened his mouth. Jabril. I'm here. Jabril materialized from the void at the first mention of her name. Have you pinned down the location? Yes, Master. I believe that the location you and Shiro calculated is accurate. Calculated? Sora took out his tablet for Plum, who didn't seem to understand what this was about. On the map of the plots of the neighboring areas of the Eastern Union was displayed a rough estimate of the position of the city, which Shiro had traced back from such factors as the slight amount of trade conducted by Oceans. Looking over the real-world position beyond the horizon, Sora spoke. All right, I guess we're ready to do it. Your wish is my command. At Sora's words, loosening her expression into a joy she could not conceal, Jabril knelt and executed his order. Huh? What are you going to do? Plum nervously voiced the same question Eno wanted to ask. Eno's werebeast's intuition was blaring an alarm. Identify it. As circumstances require. Stop it. These bastards are up to no good. So Eno glanced at the Shrine Maiden. Seeing her slowly nod, no problem, he sighed in relief. But then, at the Shrine Maiden's snide expression, adding, But watch out, Eno, went pale. Sora lifted Shiro and offhandedly announced, We're busting in! Everyone get back! As the two edged away from the beach, Jabril turned to Sora and Shiro. Master, you are certain it's all right? As if unable to wait, yet, for form's sake, squirming, she sought final confirmation. Sure. In any case, it's going to be constrained by the 10 Covenants, right? First of the 10 Covenants. In this world, all force of arms and bodily injury are forbidden. Any action that's considered to be malicious or an exercise of a force of arms is cancelled by the binding power of the Covenants. Looked at the other way, actions without malice are not cancelled. Which means that if an action is executed, that means Lord Tet himself has put down his seal of approval, saying it doesn't violate anyone's rights. So, with these words, Sora raised his thumb with a bold smile. Do what you can for the win. At this reply, a solemn bow, as if receiving the word of heaven, but contrastingly made a sloppy smile, Jabril stood. How many years has it been? I cannot wait. As Jabril whispered with a drunken expression, her surroundings suddenly distorted. Clearly, like no space, seemed to wrench and warp. The 10 Covenants, which was a world in which the exercise of force of arms and bodily injury was forbidden by absolutely binding covenants, Eno supposedly understood it was more than well enough, yet this scene made his skin crawl. Come now, all fall back, came the calm yet sharp voice of the Shrine Maiden. At this brief command, without connection to their consequences, all the werebeasts there were reflectively jumped far away. Huh? What's going on? Steph was finally brought back to the real world by the Shrine Maiden's shout. She realized that she was the only one still so close to the sea. Thunk. A space quivered with the sound outside the audible range. Warped further as even the sand on the beach was made to forget about gravity and float into the air. Bending and twisting, space converged in Jabril's hand. The only one there who could see magic, spirits, Plum. Yet she watched utterly at a loss to what Jabril was trying to do. If it was as Sora had been told before, it was only natural. What Jabril was doing was squeezing all the spirits out of their surroundings. If there were no spirits to see, nothing could be seen. It was much like a black hole, and, in Jabril's palm, The wrung-out spirits were compacted, compressed, condensed, contracted, concentrated, and at last began emitting light. It shone clearly even to the eyes of Sora and Shiro. Amenities incapable of seeing spirits, in Jabril's right hand, a column of light that seemed to whirl began to form. Sora and Shiro were fundamentally unable to grasp or detect the likes of magics or spirits, and yet the halo above Jabril's head was spinning so fast it was already just a blur. There was only one thing this could mean. Hey, you can't be serious. What do you mean? Finally grasping the situation, Plum scrambled to take cover, but unable to escape from her crate, she just screamed. Yes, there was only one thing this spectacle could mean. It was something the likes of which, at the very least, Sora and Shiro had never seen. Jabril was about to exercise magic on a level that defied conventional expectations. Jabril's right hand gripped it firmly, though it was too amorphous to be called a sword or spear, and slowly raising it above her head, she smiled sunnily. Very well, master. I shall proceed with about 5% of my full power. At a speed that left these worlds far behind, Jabril's right arm swung down. That was as much as Sora and Shiro were able to see, with a lag like that between the sight of a distant lightning and the sound of a following thunder. A few moments later, roared a boom that shook the earth as waves reached almost to the heavens, and, almost like some kind of joke, the sea parted. Then, Yah! Argh! In the wake of the tempest's impact, Steph, as well as Plum, still in her crate, rolled to Shiro's and Sora's feet. That was everything they were able to perceive next. It's such a delight to be able to put force. Jabril bared a huge, refreshed smile. I can only pray to one day be blessed again with the chance to put forth I all, 100%. But at these words, even Sora and Shiro broke into a cold sweat. Even Moses would be incredulous at how cleanly she had parted the sea. And then they remembered that Jabril had once unleashed her full power on an elf, that is, 100%. With her heavenly smite, and albeit not entirely, they had managed to defend themselves somewhat. Elf feels guys are pretty sick. At Sora's involuntary acknowledgement of their crew currently in absentia, Shiro nodded. Jabril, though, was unable to know what lay in their hearts. With this, I have succeeded in seeing the city of Siren. We may shift there at any time. The werebeast's senses approached physical limits, but of course, Ino Izuna and even the Shrine Maiden were incapable of seeing anything but the horizon. At this point, no one could say a word to Jabril, claiming she'd seen it as if she'd been bent light herself with that blow of hers. Sora looked around at the wide berth that had been cleared around the flugel. Okay, guys, let's go grab onto Jabril. The appalled Shrine Maiden returned gingerly to the beach with the werebeasts. I thought myself aware of it, but seen in the flesh, that is one cruel joke. If you can help it, you really shouldn't get involved with Flugel at all. Crawling out of her broken crate, Plum concurred. Fortunately for her, the sun had already set. Ino suddenly raised his voice in a panic. Sir, will you please not subject our holy Shrine Maiden to that sound? In apparent terror of the sound from the distortion of space and a long-distance shift, Ino was roaring. Oh yeah, Jabril? Yes, I understand the situation. But with that, everyone please hold. Oh please, Dora, if you'll just interrupt your nap for a moment and come here. Uh-huh. What is this? The sea is parted? Everyone gathered around Jabril, ignoring Steph and her lonely shrieking. And now we shall shift to the metropolis of Siren Ocean. For once more, Jabril's wings started to glow, and again her halo increased its RPM. The distance is 378.23 kilometers. However, the parted sea will return at any second now. As if responding to her words, the sea closed up with a roar. Therefore, if surmise that ocean lacks air, don't worry, I've got a spell for breathing. But whether she didn't hear Plum's voice or simply ignored it, therefore, I will ship this along with all the air in a 200-meter radius. Hmm? Fall back! The Shrine Maiden's voice rang out once more. With it, the werebeast who had come with her to the beach, excluding Ino and Igazuna, took a step away. That moment, they vanished, leaving behind a high-frequency crack of splitting air. Eek! And a low-pressure field imploded with the rebound of the air punched out wholesale. It stirred up a little cyclone, forcing the remaining werebeast girls to cling to a tree as they rode out the wind. But all who might have witnessed the sight were gone. Well, that's the end of chapter 2. Glad I finished that up now. It was a good little chapter to finish. I ended up finishing this a little after the first recording, but I'm probably going to upload this the day later, like I initially said. I didn't realize that whole thing at the beginning with the beach was all for a commercial. I'm assuming it has to do with tourism for both the beast folks and the werebeast and the humans, whatever they're called. They're just humans. So that was kind of a surprise and a funny one because I honestly hate sand. It's just like the feeling between my toes and the way it gets wet. Like, man, I'd just rather go to a pool. Like, I get some people enjoy it, but I understand why the werebeast wouldn't because of all their fur. You'd have to comb it out and all that. But I'm looking forward to see where this goes. I'm really glad I finished this up. So I suppose I'll see you guys next time, the next video that hopefully will come out soon. I'm assuming I'm going to end up releasing these day after day, just even if I finish them a little before then. I might divide each one into 2 parts. My throat's definitely dry. I'd always been before like, how on earth do their throats get dry? Like, it's just talking. But, talking for like an hour definitely does a little bit of a number. I mean, I should probably get some water, but I can do that later. Well, bye.